does it mean to follow Jesus in this present reality? Well, let's look to the past for some lessons for the present. 16th century Europe. At that time, everyone in Europe considered themselves a Christian. Have you ever wondered why on so many European countries' flags there's crosses? Even today, but if you go back and look at old flags, there's even more of them. Well, it's because at that time, people thought, yeah, you're European, you're Christian. The flag symbolizes this joining together of faith, country, church. It's all one. Well, in the early years of the Protestant Reformation, in the 1500s, there was a group of people in Switzerland that brought that into question. And what they came to believe was that one must take an individual decision to follow Jesus. And so they said, it's not that just because you're born in Switzerland, you're a Christian. You have to decide to follow Jesus, make Jesus Lord. And then they said, and at that point, that's when you get baptized. And they were called Anabaptists, or rebaptizers. And when they did that, it opened up a space that wasn't there, a new picture. So when we compare these pictures, different things flows for them. So first of all, loyalty to Jesus and nation were interwoven before. But now, in this new space opened up by the Anabaptists, there was the possibility of holding Jesus as one's ultimate loyalty, a higher loyalty. It was difficult before to imagine that the way of Jesus might be different than the laws of the land because they're all blended together. But now, in this space opened up by the Anabaptists, there was the possibility of recognizing sometimes the law of the land and the way of Jesus could be different, could be in tension. I want to make clear here, the Anabaptists were not setting out to overthrow the government. They weren't revolutionaries. They sought to be good citizens. But good citizens that follow the laws of the land, except when they were in tension with the way of Jesus. In the previous way, they're joined together. It reinforced the notion that government and people of power are of most importance. In the new space opened up by the Anabaptists, it invited them to recognize that God can work through other means, not just through government. Okay, let's go from the 1500s to the 1980s. I was living in Central America. I was a missionary in Honduras for 10 years, and in the 1980s, I was quite burdened by the extreme poverty around me, oppression, injustice, and I became more and more convinced that U.S. foreign policy was a significant factor of this. And I actually became consumed by U.S. foreign policy, consumed by focusing on it. And I became one of those one-issue voters. I decided how to vote in elections based on people's perspectives on U.S. foreign policy in Central America. But it wasn't just my voting. I also started to make my decisions about churches depending on their position on foreign policy in Central America. I began to judge other Christians, decide who was a good Christian and bad Christian based on that. Do you see what was happening? What had become first for me? Jesus or political positions? Well, in the midst of that, I read a book by an Anabaptist author, Will Campbell, and it was a moment of conversion for me. Through reading his life story, it exposed to me the reality that I was trusting in Caesar. I was trusting in the government to do the work of the kingdom of God. And that experience opened up new things for me. And it led me to realize the fruit of what had flowed from what I was doing before, of judging other Christians, and in essence, moving away from Jesus, even if I wouldn't have thought of it at that time. Now, I want to be clear here. My concern for the poor, that was a Jesus thing. That was okay. And I stuck with that. I stayed actively involved in that, but it changed perspectives about its relation and politics. As for the Anabaptists in the 1500s, it opened up some new perspectives for me, and I'd like to share 3 of those with you. First of all, it exposed to me the reality of the confusion of my ultimate priorities. I had made political positions ultimate and of ultimate and absolute importance rather than secondary and relative. Jesus is what is ultimate and of supreme importance. Now, why had I done this? It was because of what an Anabaptist would call the political illusion. What's the political illusion? Political illusion is putting our faith and trust in the government to bring about change. So now think about it. Now, politics matters. I want to be clear on that. Our current president has impacted our lives. Our previous president impacted our lives. Certainly, government politics matters. But our present president, our previous president, all presidents disappoint us. They let us down. They do not do all that we hope and desire. The political illusion. So Anabaptists exposed that, but they also pointed me towards something positive. They invited me to imagine the possibility of what can happen when a community of Jesus followers, as a community, acts as salt and light in their society, in their community, an agent of change and transformation. So let me give a concrete example to make this comparison. So think about, civil rights legislation back in the 60s. Very important. It made a difference. It made a difference. Yet look at us today. We still have race problems. That legislation in the 60s was not enough. Government is not enough. We need more than that. We need Jesus. Anabaptists invite us to recognize that other things matter more than politics, are more important and more effective. Let us give our highest loyalty to Jesus. Let us recognize the political illusion. And may your church, as followers of Jesus, be salt and light, agents of transformation in this community.